Nikon D700 with a 12.1 megapixels FX CMOS sensor, ISO sensitivity of 100 up to 25,600, 920,000.3-inch LCD with live view functions, a 51.8 system, continuous shooting up to 5 frames per second without the battery grip, or 8 frames per second with the D10 battery grip. The D700 comes with instruction menu, software CD, a quick guide, battery charger, rechargeable battery, power cord, video cable, USB cable, neck strap, and of course the D700 body itself. At first look, the D700 looks very much similar to the D300. Slightly bigger, slightly heavier, but with all the buttons in the similar places and functionally, which is also very similar. A few key differences though, and to make that more clear, I have with me here another D300. Starting from the top, we can see that the D700 has a control panel with a cross section of about 4 cm, while the D300 has one which is about 5 cm, so slightly bigger on the D300, but the one on the D700 still gets the job done, especially with the info display that you can use the LCD for. More on that later though. Another change is that the CF card cover. Here we have the more recent push and spring CF card cover. D300 we still have the old button to open. Which you prefer is up to you, but it gets the job done. In place of CF card lever, we have an info button. I'll be more clear on that later. Viewfinder is also very much different. You can see the size of the viewfinder is significantly bigger. What's more, there's also a built-in viewfinder shutter here. For the time when you need to have a long exposure and you don't want extra light coming in to affect your image. This can be very convenient. Another difference is the HDMI connection. Although same as the D300, it has the HDMI, video out, USB and DC in. The HDMI is now using a Type-C micro connector, which is actually smaller than the HDMI connector on both the D3 and the D300. Another key point to note in the differences between the D700 and the D300 is the multi-selector. Here we see that the multi-selectors have been broken into 2 parts. The outer rim, which helps you navigate, and the central button for easier selection. This is something that I'm sure Nikon has looked long and hard at and found that maybe perhaps sometimes pressing the inner button might at the same time take you into the next setting by mistake. So this is definitely a welcomed modification. The D700 in comparison to the D300 would definitely feel heavier with that extra 150 grams extra weight. But compared to the D3, it's still about 200 grams lighter, so for those of you who are used to D3, this will definitely be a blessing. Of course, this does not include the weight that you will get extra from the battery grip and extra batteries either. One of the key concerns some may have is the reduced size of the control panel. Well, don't worry about not getting your information clearly, because Nikon has introduced the info button. At the press of the button, you will have the display which is more common with the entry-level DSLRs, where you have all the information shown. What's more, by pressing the info button twice, you will actually be able to go through different settings. By pressing the button, you can actually make the setting changes directly. So there's no need to go into the menu button before you can make these changes. So this will be a lot more convenient. Having compared the D700 mainly with the D300, it's important to note a few key differences with the D3 as well. Other than the body being a lot smaller, we have the inclusion of a pop-up flash in the D700. While some may question what's the use of a pop-up flash in a model of this caliber, it's important to keep in mind that Nikon is actually thinking of this camera as a top-end amateur model rather than the D3, which is really for a more professional model. So that would be the reason why. Another change, of course, is the single CF slot rather than a dual CF slot on the D3. Now, while the dual CF slot on the D3, it's only good for backup or overflow, it will still be convenient considering that the raw images on this camera will take up quite a fair size. Another one is the voice memo support. On the D3 you'll be able to record your voice memo for each photo, but on the D700 there's no speaker or microphone, so this function is no more. The menu, however, it's exactly the same as before. You have your playback menu, shooting menu, custom setting menu, setup menu, retouch menu, my menu for customized settings, and the navigation is the same using the multi-selector. But good news for D700 users, and maybe one of the key things about D700 which most would be appreciating, is the sensor cleaning. Accessing the setup menu under the menu, we will have the option of clean image sensor, where we can select either clean now or clean as startup, which is similar to the D300. Operation is silent and very quick. The D700 offers two continuous mode. At continuous mode low, it offers a 3 frames per second shooting, and at high, a 5 frames per second shooting. While at first this may seem much slower than both the D3 and the D300, keep in mind that with the battery grip, the D10 will be able to reach the same 8 frames per second which the D300 is capable of. In live view, we have the same two options of handheld mode and tripod mode. In handheld mode, by selecting live view and pressing the shutter button, we access live view, and every time we autofocus, live view will temporarily disable to get the autofocus before returning back to live view. This is important as in handheld mode, there will be shakes which will affect the simulated autofocus that the tripod mode would use. However, for the sake of demonstration, we'll select the tripod mode. Here you see when I actually use autofocus, it's actually trying to simulate different images for the correct focus. This will take longer, and in a shaky situation, the autofocus might be a little bit off. Also released with the Nikon D700 is the latest flash from Nikon, the Speedlight SB900. Powering on, we can see clear display of the information, including the focusing. The Nikon D700, now available at DigitalRef.